I would not have known how much the island had to offer. Mackinac Island is a vacation that I think any family would enjoy. It was even better than I had imagined, so it was worth the anticipation.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. We recently had the opportunity to go up north, up to Michigan, to visit my parents for something very special. It was actually my mom's birthday, and last year my dad had his 70th and we went up and surprised him. The difference being there primarily is his birthday's in February, so it's very cold.
Frigid.
Very cold. February is probably the coldest month in Michigan. And so anyway, we went up and surprised him, but we were trying to think of things to do. Like, there's not that much, outside especially to do in the winter.
I'm not a skier, so.
Right. But we did find something that was very winter. It helped that it was cold. We found this place that had ice sculptures. We were able to go and tour those, and it was really amazing. Dad really seemed to enjoy it. We enjoyed it. It was in Frankenmuth, a little German town in Michigan, and they were just works of art.
It was spectacular. It was an outdoor, ice sculpture festival, and they had competitions and brought them in, and we went right after the festival ended, so they were all up. This beautiful that you could just walk through and see them. But we missed the crowd, so it was just kind of special. It was just us.
It was, yeah. And they had a pirate ship that was like ginormous.
Taller than you.
Right. I hadn't seen ice sculptures this large, but it was really fun. So anyway, this year we wanted to do something special for Mom, and so we were thinking we'll go up there, we'll celebrate her birthday with her, but her birthday's in the summertime.
So we get to experience the best of both worlds.
Right. A lot more options outside. We didn't have to be quite as maybe creative as try to find something this time. But we wanted Mom to pick, what would you enjoy for your birthday? And one thing that Mom has always loved is traveling up north in Michigan. That was actually our vacation spot growing up, Mackinaw City, the very, tippy top of the mitten. That's where we would go every summer. And as a kid, I just looked forward to this, anticipated it so much. With
your yearly highlight.
It really was. Me and my siblings, we enjoyed it thoroughly. And so anyway, Mom actually said, she would enjoy spending time up there. So Mom, loving northern Michigan and Mackinaw City, it was a good destination to take her for her birthday. But we also had another reason for being there too. We kind of coupled it with our vacation this year. And you want to talk about why that was?
I've wanted to go to Mackinac Island for years. I've seen Brandon's family visiting Mackinaw City in his old home movies and grandparents there, and just hearing all of his memories of how much fun it was. And we went once to the city for just a really short time, and we drove across the Mackinac Bridge, but I have never been to the island. And just hearing people talk about it, and the horses and the bicycles, because you can't have vehicles on the island, and just so much to look forward to. And then a few weeks ago, we did a Q&A here on YouTube. And so many of you gave us suggestions about the fudge and places to eat and what to do. So it was just building my anticipation. And it worked out perfect that we could do our summer vacation and celebrate Brandon's mom all in the same trip.
Yeah, and it was so much fun. But before we get into that, I guess we'll start off with the beginning of the trip. We met Mom, up at their house in mid-Michigan, and made the trek, up to Mackinac the next day. And it was really pretty. We spent the day in Mackinaw City. But while we were in Mackinaw City, one cool thing we got to do, among the many, was we ran into the Copper Man.
Yes.
You want to talk about the Copper Man?
The Copper Man is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and Mackinaw's the only place I've seen it. But he paints his whole body and all of his clothes copper, and he sits on a bike, and he doesn't move. He looks like
a copper statue.
He looks like a mannequin statue. And then when you get close or something, he'll wink at you or he'll wave his fingers. And the first time I saw him, I jumped because it scared me a little bit. But then he just has a little basket. You can take a picture with him, but I don't know how he does it. And he looked
perfectly still.
Yeah, just like this.
Bike.
Yeah, but you just get one little wink or this little high, and it jolts you.
And one thing that my family did on vacations growing up, there was one evening, every vacation we would go to this pizza place called Mamma Mia's Pizza. You Michiganders will probably know right where that's at. But it was really fun being able to go there and have Michael experience it, because I hadn't taken you before, had I?
No. But there was the group family thread going, and they sent out a picture, and everybody had memories of Mamma Mia's. So it was special to get to be there and feel that like they had childhood memories there. And it was really good pizza.
It was. A cool thing, though, about Mamma Mia's is this is very unique, but they have a museum of the Mackinac Bridge on the second level. So there's two stories here, and you get a history of the building of the Mackinac Bridge.
And it talked about just the stats and facts of bringing in the steel and how many hours it took to weave the suspension cable. And it was just fascinating how much work went into it. It was a small museum, but packed full of information.
And it was particularly cool because they started construction on the bridge the year my mom was born. And so it's like, oh, it's so appropriate that we're here. But it was incredible what they went through to build that bridge and all that went into it. It was really cool knowing the history. After we finished there, it's like, oh, Mom and Dad, could we cross the bridge? It's just cooler knowing everything that went into it. So we did. The next day, we made our voyage to Mackinac Island, and oh my goodness, what a time we had.
I love ferries. We took a ferry on our honeymoon, and ever since, I've loved them. Just boat rides and tours, and you have to take a ferry to get to the island. I mean, I guess you could fly. They have a little airport, but
that's
most
not the
people
normal way,
ferry, and it was such a fun ferry ride because I don't know what you call it. Has this jet stream that squirts out the back as you go. And it was such a fun experience, and it took us around under the bridge before we got to the island. And so just having heard all of the facts and the history of the museum the night before, and then going under the bridge, and you just think about the engineering and the mathematical equations and all the thousands of people working on it. It was very different going underneath of the bridge and seeing how big it was versus just driving over top of it and feeling like it just goes on forever and ever. So that was really cool. And then it took us to the island. And so the ferry was one of my favorite parts.
But once you get there, it's almost like you enter another time in history because you don't see vehicles around. People are either riding bikes or riding horse-drawn taxis. And so, they do have a few exceptions on the island. They have some emergency vehicles. Just because they said if something happens, they don't want the speed of a horse to determine, the help that the people need. So they have emergency vehicles and some law enforcement, so forth. But for the vast majority of the island, everybody's on a bike or being drawn by a horse. And so it's just really cool seeing how they preserved that on the island. And it's just a unique experience.
It is. I feel like the very first street when you get on the island has all of your touristy things, your fudge and your shops. And it was kind of, blustering with people and excitement and tandem bikes and little kids being pulled in wagons by their parents. And then you go one street over and it's very historic. And they have the police station and the local government. All of the homes look historic, and they have the little white picket fences. And you can tell that they've worked really hard to keep the history there and to keep the homes in their original, I guess, the way that they would have looked originally. Just beautiful, beautiful.
We were, passing by these shops, and there's so many unique places, unique shops there. But there was one that had this old-fashioned bike right inside the doorway. But it was super cool. It's, the large wheel, almost the unicycle with some training wheels in the back kind of thing. But that was super cool to see.
It was neat because on the island, that's the primary means of transportation. And so there's like thousands of bicycles on the island, and then they rent them out to people. And people also ferry their own bikes over. But it was really, really cool fact seeing so many bikes and then being one of the early ones. The flowers were just unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Flowers that we don't, I think, have in this part of Tennessee, or that I've never seen. And they were just like plate-size flowers.
And one thing, taking trips like this with my parents, we brought our umbrellas with us.
Yes.
We brought our jackets because it was overcast. We thought it might be raining. Rain was in the forecast. And Mom and Dad were constantly like, oh no, let me take the jacket so you can go get a picture. Let me take those umbrellas. I can hold those. And
they're so thoughtful to make sure that we're having a good time and that we can capture photos and that we can create memories. It's just, they're just so concerned about everybody else having a lovely time.
But once we got to the island, I was thinking, okay, where do I want to take Michael? Because I've been there before, but it had been a decade since I was, so I forgot a lot of things. But I knew I wanted her to see the Grand Hotel up close while we were there and just a few other things. But I didn't know how to get anywhere really. So we did have a map. So we were looking at that, trying to, strategize our route.
There's a lot more on Mackinac Island than I would have anticipated.
So much
It's
more.
like a 10-mile loop or an 8-mile loop. You just think there can't be that much there. But there's a fort and there's history and there's a couple churches and there's the governor's mansion. And there's just so much to see. I think you could probably spend a week there. So it's a little bit overwhelming. Like, what do we want to see next? And where do we go from here?
Right. So my mom had a great idea. She's
Yes,
like,
she did.
why don't we take one of the tours, one of the horse-drawn taxi tours, and they have their different destinations on the island, and we can just ride and listen. And we're like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. So my parents and us, we did that. We hopped on a taxi and were able to take this tour and I learned stuff I'd never heard before
It was
about
amazing.
Mackinac Island. Mackinac Island is known for its fudge. I don't know how that started or when exactly, but I guess
Y'all told us that it would be good, and you were right.
It was. We got to try the fudge while we were there. But our taxi driver told us that there was 17 fudge shops on the island, and every single one of them offer samples free. So you can go into these and get free samples. And so obviously when you hear something like that, what do you think? Oh, I can just kind of go shop hopping, do a fudge shop hopping.
We did not do that.
And get a sample at each one. So the taxi driver addressed that as well. We happened to be passing by the hospital area while she was saying this. She's like, this is the hospital on Mackinac Island. And so if you decide to go fudge shop hopping and get a sample at each one, you will have consumed 2 pounds of fudge.
That's a lot.
And she said, and if you do so, you will probably end up at this hospital, so it's not recommended. They took us by the Grand Hotel, so
Yes.
that was the primary thing on my bucket list. Is like, I know I want Michael to see that, but the history they shared about it.
So the tour, the whole time you're riding on this horse, I think there's like 12 or 14 people in your little carriage, and it's pulled by 2 big draft horses. But they have a headset on and they're telling you facts about different locations. So they're telling us about the Grand Hotel and how long it took to build it. Yeah, the craftsmanship that went into a lot that was there. Before power tools and all of that, they built the entire hotel in 93 days.
93 days.
So just fascinating, the work.
And our taxi driver shared that when they built the Grand Hotel, which is this amazingly beautiful building, she said they did it in a very unique way.
They no longer do.
Yes, they don't recommend this now. But when they started construction on it, and I mean, they were going to town round the clock to get this done in this 3-month period. But they started on opposite ends, and they built and met in the middle. And when they got to the middle, there was like a 14-inch discrepancy or something. So they put a stairwell there, I guess. But you never know. Looking at it, it's just such a pretty...
It's magnificent.
And I think it's got the world's largest front porch.
The largest covered porch in the world is what the tour guide said.
Okay, so I mean, it's a beautiful place, but it's special.
It's massive.
And unique in that. We didn't go on the porch, but we got a good view of it. But anyway, we went on from there. Where was the next place they took us? They take us to the heart of the island, and there's this museum of the Grand Hotel there, and it's like a carriage garage. It's like tons of these carriages.
And they're functioning carriages, even though some of them go all the way back to the early 1900s. They're still functioning and could be used at any time.
Yeah, and they're super pretty. Just super fun to look at. You want to hop up and sit in one and ride in them. We didn't. They had sleighs there as well. Like actual sleighs for, in the wintertime they need them.
it seemed a little bit like a movie to me seeing those, because we don't have any need for sleighs here in Tennessee. So like actually seems like, oh, that's not just a movie thing. They're real legitimate horse-drawn sleighs, and they have the bells like stringing like real sleigh bells, like not just it was cool.
It was cool. So then they took us to this place called Arch Rock, which is really cool. I had been there before, but it was fun taking Michael with me this time.
It was a beautiful spot. They gave us 7 minutes. So they said our carriage will leave in 7 minutes and we don't wait on anybody. So we ran up there as quick as we could and grabbed some pictures and ran back. But it was a gorgeous view.
It was. So there's a lot of fun spots on the island.
It was especially fun for me because I felt like I was getting to relive some of Brandon's childhood and getting to hear him talk with his parents about things that, he had done when he was younger, and times with his grandparents, and get a glimpse into, a part of his life that I didn't know him.
Yeah. So we had a super great time up north, but one thing I've really realized with trips, especially the past, I feel like 5 years or so, is that, it's really fun to take trips to amazing destinations, but what really makes them special isn't necessarily the place, but the people that are with you. And I have so many favorite vacations just with Michael because she was there. And they're cool places that I've wanted to see, but looking back, it's like, it's really who I got to spend the time with. And I feel like that was the case here too. Going out, obviously I had been to Mackinaw City before. I had been to the island before.
I hadn't, and it was epic.
Having the opportunity to spend time with mom and dad again, to go somewhere and to, yes, have fun experiences, see new things, and just marvel at, the environment, what's around and so forth. But the people is really what makes it the most special. And this is going to be a memory I'll treasure forever. I feel like my parents are people. They're somebody that's always going to have your back. They're always praying for us. They're always, there to support. Getting to go to a place you love, spending time with the people you love is just really, really a special combination.
And I think, too, the past few years, we've really begun to appreciate more and more time with the people you love, the meaningful conversations, the activities together, and just really valuing the family that God's let us be part of. And it's just so special to get closer and to hang out more, because living far apart, you don't always get to see each other. So just having those times of, heart-to-heart talks and sharing what God's doing in your life and how you're growing. It was a really, really special vacation.
If you ever find yourself in northern Michigan, we would highly recommend taking your family at least once to Mackinac Island. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a beautiful spot. We would recommend
much history.
Yeah, we recommend it in the summer. It might be a little cold any other time of year.
Mackinac Island is a vacation that I think any family would enjoy. It just had such a sweet atmosphere to it, and it was a lot of families.
Thank you to those who gave us recommendations.
Yes, I would not have known how much the island had to offer. And it was, we really appreciate those tips and suggestions. The fudge was good. The ice cream was good. It was even better than I had imagined. So it was worth the anticipation.